Full approved?
No. Empty.
Good.
Ready.
Good evening and welcome to the Manteno Village Board meeting for Monday, April 6, 2020. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Boyce.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Dole.
Here.
Crockett.
Here.
Geske.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
We have a quorum. Tonight, as always, we begin with the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from our regular board meeting from March 16th, 2020 that are included in everyone's packet. Hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to review them. Are there any changes, additions, deletions, corrections in the minutes as presented? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion to waive the reading of the minutes and approve them as presented by the clerk.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dole,
Second.
second by Phillips. Roll call.
Dole.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Boyce.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Crockett. Geske.
Yes. Motion carries. Public participation. We don't have any people here tonight. We decided to go ahead and have the board meeting because we could limit the meeting to 10 people. We have 10 of us in here, and you can, if you have watched the meeting before, you'll see that everybody is sitting in a few different spots right now because Chris went through and rearranged the seating to make sure that everybody kept their distance. So hopefully we're abiding by the guidelines and still being able to go ahead and conduct the business that we need to conduct. So public participation, we don't have any. If anyone has any questions or comments, you can forward, call, or email to Chris LaRocque at the Village of Manteno. Village President's Report. The only item that I have on my agenda tonight is the consideration for a motion to approve the waiving of the liquor license fees for the liquor, amusement, and video gaming license for the fiscal year 2020. This has all come about in the last couple of weeks because of the situation that we're in right now with the COVID-19 pandemic and all the businesses being closed. We contacted each one of you individually last week before we put this on the agenda to get your feelings on whether or not this is something that the board would consider doing. As we all know, all the bars and restaurants have been closed down except for carry-out service for the last several weeks, and they're going to continue to be closed until at least April 30th. Who knows what's going to happen after that? Obviously the liquor stores, the gas stations, the grocery store that sells liquor, they've been able to be open and operational. But we talked about the possibility of, in order to try to help these businesses, the ones that are closed and also the ones that are open and still suffering, of the potential of waiving the liquor license fees. Our fiscal year is coming up. The liquor license fees are all due in April, and the liquor licenses would all be taking effect on May 1st. It's going to be about a $40,000 hit to the village budget if we waive these fees. But to be perfectly honest, the village budget is going to take some hits that are a lot more severe than that from all the things that are happening with the loss of sales tax and the loss of the gaming fees and all the other things that are happening statewide and nationwide. So, we all discussed about the possibility of doing this in order to try to help the businesses. Some of them have got a couple different licenses for different types of service. So some of them, it could be a couple $1,000s that they have to come up with in April in order to keep their license. They have to have their local license before they can get their state license. And everyone that we talked to individually over the last week, seemed like they were in favor of this. So we put that out to the liquor license holders and to the news media that this is something that we were going to do tonight. And so we have it on the agenda to waive the liquor license, the amusement fees, and the video game license fees for the calendar year 2020. Which starts May 1st of this year, 2020, 2021, our next coming fiscal year. If anyone has a comment about that, we'd be happy to discuss it. But, like I say, it's something that we all talked about on an individual basis and came to a consensus that we thought it would be good. And we needed to get that word out to them because a lot of them are calling the village hall now in anticipation of getting their liquor licenses, but, wondering, how they're going to come up with the money to pay for some of this stuff. We're the first community I know that has decided to do this. Whether other ones will follow suit in some fashion, that's entirely up to them and their budget. Luckily, the village of Manteno is in a financial position where we can do this and still be able to maintain the services that we've grown accustomed to and been able to provide for the community in the past several years. And we can do it. Like I say, it's certainly going to take a hit on our budget, but there's going to be a lot of hits coming in the next few months. Any questions, comments, discussion?
I would say that the village talks about being business friendly, and we're putting our money where our mouth is.
Other comments? Okay, well, this will be on the agenda for voting on later. Just a couple other things that I wanted to comment on. I think Sarah put at everyone, or Ryan put at everybody's desk maybe, event that that Sarah talked about the other day over the weekend with me, that on Wednesday night at 7 p.m., she's asking everybody to come out of their house and make some noise in order to honor the first responders, the doctors, the nurses, and all the hospital support people that are putting themselves in harm's way over the last couple of weeks and the upcoming time. Just to go outside and make some noise for a minute or two to let people know that we support them and that everybody appreciates all the work that they're doing. It's kind of a small token of that the village can do from your front porch of your house. Just come out and either honk your horn or ring a bell or bang some pots and pans together or whatever you want to do, just to show support for the first responders and the hospital personnel that are putting themselves in harm's way for all of us to be able to continue to live our lives as we are. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of stuff on that on the social media over the course of the next couple of days. So if you go to our Facebook page or the village website, you'll be able to get information about that. But it's pretty simple. It's Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Go out and make some noise for a minute. A couple other things that I want to talk about is that because of the orders that we're under for the shelter in place, we're also in the month of April, which the weather's changing, and with that we sometimes have some bad weather, and we have some tornado warnings that get issued during the course of this month and throughout the summer. And there's been some discussion about, well, will the shelters be open when there's bad weather? If the tornado sirens go off, are the shelters going to be open? And the chief and I and Chris and a couple of the other people in the village have discussed this, and the fire chief, and talked about whether or not it was worth opening the shelters when we're under a shelter-in-place order. And the general consensus was that it was, that if the weather's bad and and there's been a tornado sighted and the sirens are going off, or if there's even a tornado warning, that it's worth it for us to open the shelters for people that don't have a place that they feel secure. So if there is bad weather that's going to be coming our way, the shelters will be opened. The shelters are at the Catholic Church, St. Joseph's Catholic Church, at the First Church of the Nazarene, and also here at the Leo Hassett Center. We don't want anybody to, obviously suffer because of a potential, storm, wind, or tornado and get blown away because of trying to take the precautions that are in place for the virus. But if you do need to come to a shelter, we ask you to go to those shelters, keep your social distancing from the people that are there, and do whatever you can in order to try to, typically, or to actually weather the storm. One thing with the shelters, though, there are no pets allowed at the shelters. This is something that had to be implemented because we've had problems with pets in the past, and they've created some incidents where we just can't allow them. It's just something that we just can't do. And so if somebody is in a home where you think you need to have a shelter, now's the time to line the place up. If you have a pet and you won't leave your pet at home, I certainly understand that, but you need to be thinking about where you're going to go, because the shelters that we have are not available for pets. So on a nice sunny day, find some place where you can go if your pet has to be with you, and make arrangements to go to those places, because we just can't do it when we're allowing the general public here to be in a confined space. Like I say, all three shelters will not allow pets, and we understand that if that's something that you certainly won't leave your house without, but please make prior arrangements and make them now before something happens and you're scrambling trying to find a place to go. And then finally, the thing that's come up is about our parks. We have discussed the possibility of closing the parks, and I've talked with the police chief about it, and I've talked with the village administrator about it, and we felt as though that it wasn't correct to close the parks, because now with people having a lot of time off, a lot of time to themselves, that we wanted to have open spaces for people to go. However, the parks are open for exercise and for and for being able to enjoy them. But the courts, the basketball courts, the tennis courts, any place that you're going to be close by with somebody, and you're going to be not in the 6 feet distance, we obviously don't want people doing that. The parks are open for your enjoyment. Please stay, use the social distancing rules and stay away. You can use the paths. You can, enjoy the parks, but use them at your own risk. Our Public Works Department has gone around and sanitized the equipment that's there, but as soon as they leave and somebody comes and uses it, there's no guarantee that that playground equipment is free of germs. I mean, we can pretty much assure that anytime anybody's playing on that there's going to be some type of germs that'll be left behind like they would in any normal time. So use those things at your own risk. We ask that you, stay away from people, but we don't want to close the parks for a couple reasons. One, it's almost impossible to police, because we just when people are walking through the parks, we don't want the police to be spending their days there guarding the entrance and exits to the park. And there's no reason to keep people out as long as they're abiding by the rest of the rules. So I know that there's going to be people that are going to go by and they're going to see kids that are there and they're too close and they're not going to like that. And I guess my question there is, why aren't they at home themselves? So please, if you're going to use the parks, obey the rules. Stay away from people, and use them at your own risk, so we don't have to close them, because it's, like I say, they're almost impossible to be able to police the closure. And with that, I have nothing else, and I would turn it over to the village administrator if he has a report.
I have nothing this evening, Mayor.
Committee reports, Public Works and Utilities, Mr. Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no items on the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Properties and Recreation, Mr. Martin.
I have nothing tonight, sir.
Mr. Martin, Public Safety and Health, Mrs. Dole.
Thank you, Mayor. I have new business on the agenda, an ordinance amending Title IV Police Regulations, Chapter 4, Animals and Fowl, Section 4-4-8, Livestock or Poultry of the Municipal Code for the Village of Manteno. As discussed at the recent committee meeting, this ordinance clarifies the existing ban on certain farm animals and their respective housing within village limits. After some discussion with a few residents, the board determined that there was no benefit to village residents by relaxing the existing ordinance. Questions on that? I think we all were there, except maybe you. So, yeah.
That's the chicken meeting.
So that is on the agenda. The mayor had, he basically stole all my thunder again tonight as far as what I was going to talk about. But I did see couple things that you didn't mention about all Manteno school properties, such as ball fields, are closed. So no going there. Several businesses have called about providing some services out of their buildings. If they are considered a non-essential business, no activities can take place at that location except for a few specific maintenance duties, such as payroll or attending to inventory. If there is any question about what can and cannot be done at a non-essential business, please contact the police department before performing any activity at a business. Finally, the open businesses should not be used as an opportunity to congregate. If you must go to the grocery store or hardware store It should be limited to one person and only for necessary items. The sooner we limit the exposure everywhere, the sooner we can get things back to normal. Again, if you have any questions about what is and isn't allowed, feel free to contact the Manteno Police Department. And my public safety meeting is Wednesday at 7 a.m. here in this room, right? Yes. Okay, all right.
Yeah, we're moving them to this room so we can stay the distance apart.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mayor, those meetings will be closed to public, correct? Is that,
Pardon me?
will those meetings be closed?
Right, we can't, I mean, because otherwise we have no way of controlling the amount of people that are
That's-
here.
I was just
So. Thank you, Ms. Dole. Planning and zoning, Mr. Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one item on the agenda this evening. It's ordinance 19-38, which is an ordinance providing for delayed remittance obligation for building permit fees, inspection fees, park donation impact fees, school land impact fees, and school construction impact fees. An ordinance providing, in an effort to increase residential construction, the board determined that this delay payment option might help builders hold down initial costs, thereby enticing them to start more new homes, duplexes, or apartments. The village will still collect the same amount of fees, but will now receive them at the issuance of the occupancy permit or 1 year after the permit is issued, whichever comes first. Ryan, anybody have any comments? We have a planning and zoning committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, April 28th. That would also be here in the village boardroom as well?
Yes, all the committee meetings will be here from now until they change the rules.
All right. And then the next planning commission meeting, which was scheduled for April 14th, has been canceled. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Finance, Mr. Geske.
Thank you, Mayor. First item I have is Resolution 1917, a resolution of the Village of Manteno receiving and placing on file the preliminary budget for the fiscal year period of May 1, 2020 through April 30th, 2021. This, again, is very preliminary and it's changing daily as we are going to vote tonight even to adjust it more by suspending liquor licenses and revenues and things of that nature. So I anticipate we'll have quite a few amendments to this budget.
Right. I mean, it just so happens that this is the time of the year that the budget is, it has to be placed on file and we have to approve it later on in April, right at the time when everything's changing, in the world, changing in the area, changing in the state, changing financially also. So, yeah, the budget, I'm sure this year, why we'll have, tonight's placed on file and in 2 weeks we'll actually pass a budget. It's, things are going to be different for the next fiscal year, and we all understand that, there's a good possibility that, it's almost a certainty that we will be tapping into our reserves because of the loss of income that's going to take place that we haven't even calculated yet. And Chris has been in touch with the state of Illinois trying to get us some estimates as to what they think, and they're just guessing too. So, we don't know how long this closure on things is going to last, how long it will take to get things back to normal, what the new normal will be. So, our budget is going to be, like I say, our best guess in this, period of time, and subject to change, which we can pretty much guarantee.
This will be on the agenda for tonight to put our guesstimate of our budget.
Yeah.
Also, we have payment of bills in the amount of $65,775.45, which includes TIF bills at TIF 1 of $7,401.37. We have payment of bills authorized between board cycle of $40,189.35. And our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for the 8th here at the Village Hall conference room today, or located here where we have our board meetings. We'll be close to the public as well. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Geske. General Government, Mr. Phillips, you have anything tonight?
No, I have nothing on the agenda.
So the items that we'll be voting on the consent agenda are as follows. Under old business, nothing. Under new business, ordinance 1938, An ordinance providing for a delayed remittance obligation for the building permit fees, inspection fees, park donation impact fees, school land impact fees, and school construction impact fees. Resolution 1917 is a resolution of the Village of Manteno receiving and placing on file the preliminary budget for the fiscal year period of May 1, 2020 through April 30th, 2021. Item number 3 is ordinance 1939, an ordinance amending Title IV Police Regulations, Chapter 4, Animals and Fowls, Section 4-4-8, Livestock or Poultry of the Municipal Code for the Village of Manteno. Item number 4 is a motion to approve the waiving of license fees for liquor, amusement, and video gaming licenses for the fiscal year 2020-2021, and the payment of the bills in the amount of $65,775.45, of which $7,401.37 are TIF 1 bills. Are there any items on the consent agenda that need to be voted on individually? Seeing none, I'd accept a motion to take a single roll call vote on the question of the passage of the agenda items as read. Motion by Martin.
Second.
Second by Geske. Roll call.
Martin.
Yes.
Geske. Boyce.
Yes.
Dole.
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes,
Motion carries. I accept the motion to approve by ominous vote the ordinances, resolutions, motions, and orders contained in the consent agenda as read.
Make the motion.
Motion by Dole. Second by Boyce. Roll call.
Dole.
Yes.
Boyce.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
Geske. Phillips.
yes.
Motion carries. Comments? Do you have anything tonight, Mr. Boyce?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Martin?
Nothing.
Mrs. Dole?
Sure, we don't need to talk anymore about what all we need to do, because that's all is on the radio, the TV, everything. So just be safe and stay healthy.
Mr. Crockett?
No comments, Mayor.
Mr.
I
Geske?
have nothing.
Mr.
I
Phillips?
just want to say a few things we do out at Oak Ridge in the senior community. We've had a couple drive-by parades, and we'll get out in the driveway on a given block. Everybody get out and wave and say hello, and just kind of make sure everybody's good, and that's just something we do out there, and try to stay safe. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious we're living in some pretty, strange times that none of us have ever, gone through stuff that we're going through now, and nobody could have ever predicted, the things that have happened over the last 30 or 45 days. I think it was, 2 meetings ago, we had Riverside Hospital here talking about, this COVID-19 that not everybody had even heard of, and then, a month later, you've been locked down for a couple of weeks and going to be, that way for the next several weeks. We went from the, lowest unemployment, in record, to more people being, laid off and unemployed, than since the Great Depression, all within a matter of about 30 days. So, things are changing. They're changing rapidly. They're changing fast. Hopefully, they're going to start changing for the better over the course of the next few weeks. But there's no guarantee of that. We don't know how long this is going to last. That's why when we talk about our budget and the things that that we need to pass, we know that there's going to be amendments and changes, and there's going to be things that are going to happen that we just can't foresee, and financial impact that that we haven't been able to predict. And like I say, nobody would have ever predicted this 6 or 8 weeks ago. So we just get through the next few weeks and attempt to get back to normal and try to get our town, our community, and our residents back out doing things that they're used to doing. But for the time being, stay home and stay safe. Accept a motion to. I'm sorry, Sam.
Excuse me, I'm probably out of order, but Wendell reminded me of something. Last Friday, just to say what a nice town we have, at 1:30, all the, I believe the elementary school teachers it was, they set up a parade, and there had to be 50 cars plus fire or police cars and things like that, and they basically drove through the entire town, and all the kids came out on the porch or on the driveway, and they waved at all their teachers they haven't seen for a month. It was a big deal, and those kids really appreciated it. It was a big deal that the teachers did all that, so I wanted to make sure they got a little bit of acknowledgement, because that was a very nice gesture.
Right. And they followed all the rules. They were all in their own cars,
Yeah.
and they,
And the kids were all separate in their driveways.
they called the police, and they had the police and the fire department involved, and Yeah, I watched them too, and they took them a couple hours to get through all the different streets and towns. So yeah, it was nice to see the teachers, wanting to, stay connected with their kids. And
I'm glad I reminded you.
Yep, thank you.
yeah, and I think you're going to see more of that, thing where people can try to stay connected as much as possible by still being away, from each other, but sending like the thing that Sarah's trying to plan for Wednesday night, just a show of gratitude and let the people know that hey, we appreciate it and we're still behind them. Just just like the teachers did for the kids the other, everybody's trying to come up with unique ways of obeying all the rules, but still letting people know that they care. So, with that, I'd accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Geske, second by
Second,
Dole. Roll call.
Geske,
Yes.
Dole,
yes.
Boyce,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much for coming and for watching.